As I've said before on the podcast, my day job is I'm a high school teacher. And what originally brought me to wanting to be a teacher was being in high school. I had a few different teachers that really changed my life and made me see things in myself and feel successful. And I wanted to give that back in return and become a teacher. So originally I did my undergrad work and I got degrees in psychology and English, and I didn't know which I was going to teach, and I knew that I was going to get a master's in teaching and go on to do that, and I did. And so now I'm in the thick of it. I'm out putting principles into practice. And a lot of people in the teaching field will talk about teaching as a vocation. Like it's what you were born and meant to do. And some of my mentors have used that for me, saying that my vocation is teaching. And for a while, I really thought teaching was my vocation. Like it was what was going to make me happy and give my life purpose and meaning. And now I recognize that while it is something I'm good at, I'm actively questioning, is it a niche? Is it my purpose? Am I limited to one purpose? And I continue to question that. This is Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. Have you identified your niche or your purpose yet in life? Do you think you have one?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my purpose is to somehow use comedy and do something bigger with like my words and my voice that's bigger than my own internal struggles.
For sure.
You know, and probably like I don't know, like help people in some way, but I don't know if like, 'cause there's no job, like looking for someone who's charismatic and who could do funny shit for business. Like there's no wanted ad for that. I don't
Not
know.
yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I did apply for a job that was kind of like that, but not for the comedy shit, but to like actually use my voice for a purpose. I didn't get the job, but, still, like, they're very few and far between, but it has something to do with my voice, and it has something to do with like my humor and shit, because other than that niche, I'm a wrestling fan, so I know what that's like very much.
Oh, it's funny you say that, that like trying to figure out the niche and the jobs that are and are not out there. I'm reminded of, there was some sort of TED talk or speech that a guy was like talking to a bunch of college students and was telling them like, you know, you're probably sitting there questioning, what should I do with my life? What jobs should I pursue? And he had cited some like evidence or research where they found that most people in their life regretted the jobs where they didn't give back. And so his point was that you should always pick the job that gives back to your community and your world, because you'll never regret serving people or serving your community. And I do feel that about teaching. Like if I decide to not be a teacher in the next 5 to 10 years or whatever, I won't regret it, because every day and year I spend, I think, is one that I make a positive impact, and nothing can take that away.
Yeah, and especially like when it's a real community and not just some fake bullshit like, oh, you're going to serve your community if you stack boxes.
Yeah. Or like, I was going to say something about like working in a grocery store, but I think you actually do serve your community a lot closer than maybe stacking boxes at a Target or something like that.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I would say all jobs probably are purposeful, though.
They do serve a purpose, and I think, imagine if every single job that is out there is worked by somebody that wanted to do it. Wow.
Do you think we'd live in a happier world then?
I don't think capitalism would be criticized as harshly if that were the case.
If everyone was 100% happy to do their job.
Yeah, if every job, so for instance, like even like that wouldn't mean people going away for certain jobs, because there's some people who like working as a cashier at Target, or then there's some people who love being a janitor. You know, there's some people who love working in waste management, and there's some people who love doing like the menial, like stacking boxes stuff. Like, but the people who don't want to do it, they make that job worse for everybody else and for themselves. And you can see it. It's really hard to hide that pain.
No, that's true. Like, how many people do you know in your job or in your line of work where like you look at them and they shouldn't be where they are. Like, I know even I've seen teachers that I'm like, you should not be educators. You've lost the will. You don't like kids anymore. You're not willing to educate yourself in how you should vary your practice or whatever. You're not willing to learn. Shouldn't be a teacher anymore.
Yeah, there's something there keeping them going. Probably the steady paycheck and stuff, but
yeah, and that's like when you were talking about like, well, every job serves a purpose. Like, not only to our like community or society, like every job has purpose in that regard, but it also serves the purpose of like money. It's money. It helps you survive. I'm not saying like every single job has a living wage, because that's not the case, sadly. I wish it were different, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the jobs that I have, but do I necessarily want to do them? Maybe one of them, the other one, I just want the money.
Yeah.
And it's the one that's giving me the money, and it's causing me the least emotional stress possible, considering that I could be working someplace where I would just want to, put on nylon stockings and shoot my mouth every day when I get off of work.
Well, that being said, though, that even like that job, then its purpose is monetary, and it's also allows you, it doesn't give you any additional stress. So when you walk away from that job and you go home, you can go be creative and do the things you want to do. That was something we had talked about a while ago, and you completely opened my eyes to like, if you're a creative person, you need a job where you can do your work and then go home and be creative, because you need to do that to be fulfilled. And I think I'm trying to work to that space, which is kind of hard in teaching, because things you have to take home with you. You have to do certain things. I'm really trying to find that where I can leave my work at school and like go home and be creative or do what I need to do to take care of myself. So we've been talking purely in the like job realm of purpose and niche. Do you think there's a higher purpose or niche for you? Like, I'm talking like ethereal shit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's crazy because I say a lot of goofy shit, but somehow that sticks with people. And
do you have an example?
God, I could list so many, but I'm afraid of coming off as arrogant. But I just know, well, I just know that, for instance, like, during some of the people's most hardest times in their life, I was able to make them laugh, and bring them some sort of like serenity just through that, or joy. Yeah, just some sort of joy, peace. It's not necessarily if I got into a severe car accident, Brett, tell me a joke. It's not
cure my pain forever with one joke. That's not happening.
It's not like that, but like when people are in the most pain, that's when I'm thriving. So it's kind of, in a way, I'm in a weird way attracted to misery, in the sense where, because I can definitely bring shit out of the ashes there. So like it's weird that like my voice can have some sort of a greater purpose than just at telling the people at Subway what I want on my sandwich.
I think that's comedy, though, in a nutshell, is taking either the mundane or the very painful and sad and making it funny, finding the light in it all. I think, yeah, that's just comedy to me. And even though like I'm like pushing you for like, what's this like ethereal, bigger, higher purpose for yourself, I think that a lot of times people think that they have to funnel that higher purpose into a job. Like what we were saying earlier about like, okay, if you want to help people in this world, then your job would be being a teacher. Like they think that what's a job that I can take on that will help me with people? But maybe it's possible that you do a job where you're not helping people, but you do find space and time to lift people up or do whatever it is your higher purpose is. I'm not sure what my niche or my purpose is. All I know is like, to be happy, I need to create and produce art, whether in this podcast or through other means. And so I need to keep doing that to feel nourished and to keep going and to feel fulfilled. And maybe in that's my purpose. But my purpose could also be something entirely different.
Yeah. So do you think your purpose might be helping others, or like perhaps changing an art form or adding to the art form, or is it challenging, certain norms that you do not agree with? Like your purpose, like do you see like where you could be the most effective, or like what part of you could be the most like geared towards that? Well,
I think definitely in practical terms, like what really drew me to education was wanting to kind of abolish apathy and also make students, I hate to sound kind of polarizing here, but I want to create more anarchists and free thinkers who are not afraid to think outside the box or be critical of systems that they don't agree with and all that stuff. And the easiest way to do that is to especially be an English teacher, because I can teach critical thinking and thought processes, and especially the way I teach with like where I try to emphasize discussion and collaboration with peers. Like, that's a really practical way to do that. So I think that that's one way that I can help like challenge like norms and whatnot and create those free thinkers. But I'm also like one person. There are other teachers like me, I'm sure, and want to be like to move their kids towards that, to be critical thinkers. But I do also question, like, should my purpose be, is it beyond that? Should it be, maybe like the reason I have that creative draw and power is so I can like change things in a medium or bring a new voice that hasn't been heard. Or I think one of the things that I like is the prospect of being able to say something in song or on a podcast or through art that touches someone and affects them. I think that's mostly, I want to positively affect people. And that also stems from my own experiences with art, where like an album like changed my life or my perspective, and I just wanted to do that, to be that for someone else.
Do you think you could be as creative like within the teaching world and still use like the fullest extent of yourself and your abilities within the craft of teaching?
That's a really good question. I think that it's always possible. It's whether I want to commit to it or not. Because that's the other thing, is that teaching as a profession is very, very consuming. You know, you're always on. When you're in school, you're on. You're going. You know, even though we do get summer break and a couple weeks in the winter and spring break, you know, when you're on, you're on. You're working 9 to 10 hour days, regardless of, you know, what time you're contractually obligated to be there. And it's kind of paradoxical, but teaching can be a really conservative field. So even the things that I'm saying that I do, that I've really found a space where I can do that, in a school where I can do that. There's other institutions, even other teachers in the building, who look at what I do and suggest that I don't have the best practices. So it's not that it's impossible for me to put that in there. It's sometimes there's red tape, or there's just practicalities, or there's things with administrations that would inhibit that from occurring. So I also like stubbornly, this is gonna sound really stubborn, like even though like I have the people around me telling me like, oh, you're doing a really good job, like there's a part of me that's like, I know I'm doing a really good job, but I don't feel ultimately fulfilled by it. And I think we talked about this last episode or something, that like being a teacher is hard because you're planting seeds that you won't see the fruit of them for months, and it can be really grueling. So like, yeah, it's totally worth it at the end of the year, but also like that in between phase can just be like so intense that at a point I'm like, this is too intense and I want to just go do this and then focus on my art. So I feel like I'm not limited to one medium for my purpose, because if my purpose is like enacting change or making people see something different, or touching them spiritually, like so they're not enlightened. I don't want to say that because that makes me sound like I'm some fucking messiah figure, and I'm not. But like if I can like illuminate something for somebody, or make them question something, or give them a certain skill or an idea, like I don't think that I'd only be limited. I can only do that through teaching. I think I could do it through music and art.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because it seems like at least through art and music, you can always regenerate yourself.
Yeah, I think you've been coming back to this like phoenix imagery for a while now, both in your like personal life, but even in this too, you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like a constant renewal and like rebirth, because each time you do it, each time you like produce something creative out of your own head, what you're really doing is you're digging a hole. But not like a hole in terms of like a financial hole or like a desperation or a depression hole, but you're creating a hole, meaning like you are increasing your capacity for greatness.
Yeah. And I think that every time you exercise your creative faculties, you're opening yourself up to that, for the purpose to shine through, the light to shine through, whatever it is.
The best thing I ever did with my life was 4 years ago, was just to open my mind. And I mean, it sounds really cheesy and, I don't want it to sound too hippie, but just to hear a different perspective other than my own, even if I really disagreed with it.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes that is some of the best things you can do, is to be pushed by people you disagree with, or to hear other people's perspective. Especially now, it can be too easy to be caught up in your bubble and your belief system that you don't weigh the other side, or you give it no credence. And it's easy to write people off. It's harder to listen to them and find the, I almost said like the gems or the nuggets, but yeah, finding like the admirable is not the right word. Finding the reasoning, listening to it, finding what's valid within their argument.
Yeah, it's more rather about how they got to that thought than the thought itself.
Yeah.
Because it's always a different reason. Like, let's just say if somebody didn't like Star Wars, like the new movie. I'm one of the very few who thought it was like the best fucking Star Wars. I loved it that much. But there's some people who really hate the movie.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who are like, meh, it's okay. So what? Those are just three opinions.
Yeah.
So you can ask someone, why did you hate it? Some people will give you one reason, and like you'll have a lot of different reasons of why they hated it. Same with why they thought it was meh, and then me being the only one that thought it was the best Star Wars. I haven't heard anybody else yet that said that, but the opinion is how we all got to there, and it's just like with finding our purpose and our niche or niche. I always say niche, but
I say niche or niche. I say both. I think. What have I been saying? Niche this whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't really think about it. Just say niche.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically, I think that's the right word. I'm just so stubborn and saying, like, yeah, that's my niche. Or kind of like I would say avatar instead of avatar.
I've never heard avatar. I've only heard avatar.
Oh, I know. I used to say avatar, and then I originally said avatar. And then I heard people say avatar, so I started saying avatar. And then when the movie came out, I said avatar.
Would you say aardvark or aardvark? How would you say aardvark that way?
Is it aardvark?
Aardvark? It's aardvark.
Yeah, I mean, I say like I say gyro.
Yeah, you don't say. I've heard it called a gyro before, but it's pronounced gyro.
Yeah, I even heard gyro. Like I always say gyro.
Gyro.
Or jardinera, I say gardinera.
You do not.
I swear to God, I do.
No, you do not. You just call it jardinera.
I had to really force myself to say it like that just now.
Okay, how do you say it again?
Gardinera.
So, okay, I worked in a pizza place where we had Italian beef pizza, and it has jardinera on it. And so, like, let's say, and so it was like a pizza topping you could get. You could get hot jardinera on your pizza. If someone had called and said what you just said, I would be like, what the fuck do you want on your pizza, sir? I do not understand.
I've said that at restaurants before.
And they understood?
I don't know.
Did they give you what you wanted?
I think so. Well, because he was asking, like, if I think the question was, do you want I think the person before me ordered, like, mild jardinera. And then, I said, yeah, I'll have mild gardinera as well.
Oh, my God. I've never heard someone call it that. Gardinera.
See, my family fucking does. And ever since I was a kid, they always say gardinera. And I would go out in the world and I say gardinera. And I still say gardinera.
Okay, I don't even like jardinera, but I know you're saying it wrong.
I know, right? Like, I'm trying to be a better person.
I'm trying to be better and actually saying jardinera.
I know. It's...
Is your niche in life to just upheave how we say words?
I think my niche in life... I'm saying niche. I think my niche in life is probably now to just put meaning back into words.
Is a deconstructionist that try to decipher all the different meanings in words? I'm a really bad student now. I can't remember. Very interesting. I never knew this about you, and now I'm just like obsessed. We're like, when we leave this podcast or whatever, like for the rest of our days, I'm gonna try to find words that you say differently than me, because I find it fascinating.
Well, like for instance, it's not really saying it differently, but I call house slippers hoppies.
Oh, I knew that. I knew that one, hoppies. You say PJs or pajamas? PJs, yeah. That's hoppies. I've never heard of. I also don't have house slippers though. That's something that like I had like slippers like growing up, like maybe I'd get a pair for like Christmas or something, but like this is something really weird about me. Regardless of the temperature outside, if I'm indoors, I'm usually barefoot. Like right now I'm wearing socks, but usually I'm absolutely barefoot because I can't stand the feeling of socks. Like my feet need to be on the ground.
No, I have to have my hoppies on.
Damn.
I always stop harkening back to our first episode, like my feet, like the way that like if I straighten out my knee, my feet are always like to the side, so I'm always stubbing my toes.
Your feet are at 10 and 2, even when your legs are straight.
Yeah, so I can't, like I always stub my toes growing up, so I have to wear like hoppies. Like if I know like the path, like in the middle of the night, if I have to wake up and I have to go to the bathroom, I do have my hoppies there. Sometimes I don't put them on, but I know the path. Like I know that if I just turn right, but like if I was in a different space and I had to get up in the middle of the night, I would either walk really slow or I would have to wear my hoppies. So, yeah, I say a lot of different words, man. I can't really think of them all now, but
Did your parents grow up in Chicago, like in the city?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it is. Because like I knew a woman who like said things differently than I hear them because of like where she grew up. Like there was like, okay, do your parents call it the living room or the front room?
Front room.
Front room, yeah, because that's a Chicago thing.
Okay.
Chicago.
Okay, they don't say the remote, they say the TV box.
Wait, a remote is a TV box?
Yeah. They say like, where's the box? And like I know it's the remote.
Oh God.
Or okay, like the recycling bin. We call it the cyclobin.
The cyclobin?
Cyclobin.
That's really cute. I like that. Cyclobin.
Yeah, like throw this in the cyclobin. I think maybe like when I was a kid, it started off like my dad knew it was a joke to say gardinera, but he didn't know that I would memorize that and like say like, yeah, I like gardinera.
That's funny. The only thing that I'm thinking of my dad says that I don't think many people say is if you're gonna mow something. So if you like mowed a cheeseburger, it means you like just like smashed it into your face and you just ate it like aggressively or whatever. So we like will say mow, like he mowed a crave case at White Castle or whatever. That's our like quote unquote weird word. Not that yours are weird. They're funny. They're funny as in they're cute. Now I feel really like a jerk that I'm like calling them funny and like pointing fun at the way you say things. I'm sorry.
I didn't take it like that because I will say hoppies. I that's a word I want to see out in the fucking, like when you're reading like a JCPenney catalog or a Target ad, like we got hoppies on sale. Like that's kind of my goal, is to like inject hoppies into the fucking social conscious.
That's your purpose in this world.
That is totally my purpose.
That is your purpose. Do you think that you have only one purpose in life? Do you think you need to have a purpose in life?
Yeah, I really do.
You really do?
I'm one of those. I mean, here's the thing. I know it doesn't work for some people, but I always felt that the things I really want before I die, I want my dreams, I want love, I want kids. See,
and I think that postmodernism would say like there is no meaning. We are assigning meaning to the meaningless. And so, like, we can't do that. So they would probably argue, like, there is no meaning of life, there is no purpose. And I don't think there's any meaning of life. I think it's just what you make of it. And I think that if you decide that you have a purpose and you put your mind to it and that's what you decide to do, then your life will be filled when you achieve that purpose, if you achieve that purpose. Or it gives you a goal or an end. And the other thing about, like, life is it's very long if you're miserable and it's very short if you're happy. So if you're happy and joyous and, you know, doing what you love or whatever you deem your purpose to be or gives you fulfillment, then you're going to have a happy life. If you're struggling and unhappy and miserable, very long life.
I also realize you'll have a very long life if you are mean, smoke, and drink excessively.
Or do drugs. Or I think that like when you said meanness, but then you meet some old people that are super old but super mean. And you're like, how have you... But they'll probably just like Darth Maul and they just survive on spite.
Yeah, like I'm surprised. Like my uncle was an evil man and he's dead. So when I tell people, yeah, my uncle died of like terrible lung cancer, they're like, oh, and I'm like... No, he
was a horrible human being. It's fine.
Yeah, he really was. And I'm like shocked that he's dead this young because that's usually not how it is. There's always that story like, yeah, this one person lived to be 97. They drank 6 bottles of whiskey a day, and they told the Halloween trick-or-treaters to go fuck themselves whenever they came up to the door for candy, and they were fine.
The oldest person I knew passed away at 96, and she was one of the sweetest people ever. So, though she was a very sweet, kind person and always was so, she didn't have a mean bone in her body as far as I could tell. I think the one thing that's hard about that, though, you know, then you have these phrases like, only the good die young. And he died young, but he was a shitbag.
Yeah, sometimes it balances itself out. And I think the codependent die young.
The codependent die young.
So usually, like, if you have a relationship where someone is putting up with a lot amount of abuse, whether physical, emotional, or substance abuse, like you name it, the one that's, you know, the codependent one, they have the most taken out of them.
Oh, that's true.
Like, emotionally and because they're trying to, like, in a way, control the situation out of love.
True.
You know, but it takes the emotional toll on them, and then they usually are the ones, like, you always hear, like, oh man, what hit her, like, her mom died, oh my god, you know, but she was probably struggling every single day to just make shit right.
Yeah.
So we're usually, like, you know, dedicated, like, firefighters. They die pretty young because, you know, they're saving babies out of burning houses. Actually, that's not true, because I am good friends with a firefighter, and most of his job consists of just going to people's houses, and an old lady falls off the toilet, shits on herself.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I hope that never happens to me.
Yeah.
I hope that never ever happens to me.
You ever shit on yourself?
When I was an infant. Since then, no.
Oh man, that's not nice.
No, I bet not. Do you think that like police force and like firefighters, do you think that they think that's their purpose? Or do you think, because that's like a job that takes so much of you, you have to just feel like it's for you, right? Because you could risk your life.
Yeah, they probably all start off like cops or firefighters or nurses, like whatever, like that, the life-saving kind of field is.
Yeah. They
probably start off with a deep sense of, okay, there is injustice and wrong in the world, or some sort of harm. I can help make that easier.
Yeah.
That's how they start off, and then they get into it, and then, you know, they probably like just keep doing it because they're like, okay, like I'm really doing the justice thing, or I'm really like helping people. Like, yeah. I think a lot of people have it in them to help others, and you could just tell. Like, they're so easy to tell. Like when you just talk to somebody and they're like overly nice, and you could just tell that like it's not like a manipulative thing. They genuinely care, and it's just like, god damn, like you're just such a good person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and they're the ones that are usually suffering the most because they're trying the hardest to like live their purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I also think though that like, I think that maybe some people pursue false purposes. Like maybe they think that their purpose in life is to collect a lot of things or live in a certain home, or like they're meant for a certain thing, and then they're not. And I think that maybe part of the process is that you're supposed to fail at those things, or like you're supposed to, if you're pursuing the wrong thing, the wrong purpose, then you're going to fail at whatever it is, and then you'll be on the course to finding what is right for you, which is a really positive way to look at failure. I think it's the way you can like survive in being a failure, that you just have to accept that like this is how it's meant to be.
Yeah. It takes a lot to get there, though. It would be good if you can come to that conclusion overnight, because that would take a lot of the existential weight off.
Yeah. Well, would we have this podcast if it was not for existential weight?
No, because I think that there is a greater purpose to us, because I just can't believe that me and you were just floating in the wind and then all of a sudden ended up in front of a microphone one day.
That's true. That's really true. And I think that part of existence is having to parse through these issues and these big topics, where you're forced to look at the existential dread and everything that comes out of it, everything that comes out of life, all the unhappiness, and you have to sort it out. And that's what we're trying to do. and talk about like that human experience of. Do you think that the saddest use of life would be not fulfilling your purpose?
If I were to live my life to an old age, and if I never did something with humor or comedy, not necessarily like, you know, being like a famous comedian, but just like I were to create some sort of art based on it, like even if it was like a TV show or like a voice actor, or if I did something like that, or if I didn't have love, or if I didn't have kids, I would consider that I wasted my life. Only because those, not to say that if you don't have kids and if you don't have love, you have a wasted life. It's just like those are the things that I desire.
Yeah, those are the things that give you purpose.
Yes.
You as an individual. And that varies from person to person, because there's people out there who don't get purpose or love from having kids, and they don't want kids, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. And I would never pressure anybody to want to have kids or even to be in a relationship. I just know that those are parts of myself that have not been put to use, and I would like to use those parts of myself.
Yeah, and I think we talked about last time how like the one that comes back to like that I hear about like to be super stereotypical, like the purpose of a man, the purpose of a woman. Like if we go super, you know, 1950s with it, that man is breadwinner, woman is homemaker, caregiver, you know, emotional support for everything and everyone around her, and the man goes off and makes the money and kind of is this detachment from the family because he's the guy who makes the money and pays the bills. I definitely see like that, and especially when you're growing up, you are boxed in depending on your gender. It's super stereotypical, but I definitely do. I see that, and it's hard not to grow up and have that sense of like, well, if I'm a woman, then part of my purpose has to be nurturing. Part of my, well, and especially in a profession like teaching that is so dominated by women, specifically white middle-aged women, you know, who all those figures, when you think of a white middle-aged woman, that also matches like the Susie Homemaker of the 1950s and whatnot. So I don't know, what, as a man, have you felt pressured to do anything as your purpose as a man?
Have a woman.
Oh, have a woman? Yeah,
just like to
be straight, you mean? Or
well, yeah. I mean, at least like with me, I mean, I'm hetero, and you know, that's like, it's just like growing up, you know, like, okay, like you have to have a girlfriend, you have to have a woman, you know. Nobody's ever come out and directly said like, Brent, what are you doing with your life? You don't have a woman. But I know that whenever I'm in conversation, they're like, are you single? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you know, it's just always kind of like, it's like a guilt thing as opposed to a pressure. So I'm always under this guilt that because I am single, therefore I'm not doing something. But
well, I think that gets applied to women too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, a single woman in her like 30s.
Oh my God. It's like, why don't you have a child? Why aren't you married? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, it's a lot more severe. Because I think with me, like just being a guy, I'm expected to be more assertive, and I'm expected to be more courageous, and I'm expected to, you know, like have my shit together in order to like provide for like other people, and I'm just not there yet. You know, I have a very long developmental time, and it's been like that for my whole life. Like I didn't learn how to tie my shoes until I was in middle school. I literally wore Velcro shoes like my entire fucking the look you're giving me right now.
I'm trying not to laugh.
Yeah, Velcro shoes. And I'll remember like my mom would try to like sit and like teach me how to tie my shoes, and I would cry because I didn't know how to do it, and I was like fucking 12. You know,
well, when you're 12, your purpose is to learn how to tie your shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't learn how to ride a bike until 5th grade.
I think I didn't know how to ride a bike till I was in 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah, there's certain things, like to this day, I still don't know how to properly wrap an audio cord, like an audio cable, like an XLR cable. Like in like when I was in film school, that was one of the very first things that we learned, and I literally tried to fucking do it. It's just like this mental block. And I even remember one time we were hanging out, we were at an ice cream shop, and you were telling me how you learned to tie shoes, and you showed me your method, and it was so hard for me to just grasp that.
Yeah, so I like making, so there's the 2 loop method, like the bunny ears, where you make like a loop in each hand with the string and you like tie them together. I don't do that shit. I make an X and then I take one and pull it through, and then I make one loop, kind of like strangle that loop with the other, and then force the other loop through and pull.
Okay, so what you just described right now is pretty much, you just listed the first 200 numbers of pi.
The first 200 places of pi.
Like, god damn. And like, I didn't have my first kiss until I was 24, 25. So I'm a late bloomer with so much shit. I didn't start like reading and educating myself until I was fucking 26, 27.
Hey man, better late than never.
Yeah, it's just, I do have a greater purpose, and it has to do with other people, which is kind of, I'm okay with that, because I don't need people. So for instance, I want to get to the place where if I have those, it's great, but for instance, like, I don't want only those to be fulfilled. Like, I don't want the only reason that I'm with somebody to be that I love them. If that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's going bad.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I don't trust them. They're never around for me. We always fight. We don't get along. We disagree on everything. So much stress, but I love her. I just don't. Oh, yeah. I just don't, because the thing is I want to be with somebody who has like just like the qualities that I look for, like who's redeemable. I don't want to give somebody something and give them worth and just have my love to be the only reason I'm talking to them, or like, in love with them.
I agree, especially like you can love people but not be with them. That's something that like with my last relationship, there was at one point where we had just broken up and I was like, you know what, I can love this person as a human being, but we don't have to be in a relationship, because like you said, like at a certain point things just outweigh each other. Well, I'm not saying this happens with all relationships, but it's a common thing where like the only thing keeping you two together is that you love each other. And like, while on the one hand that can be really sweet and what you need, on the other it's really defeating and sad.
It is, because most of the worst relationships I have seen are still together only off of the fact that they love each other. There's no other redeemable fact. Like, oh, I love talking to her. I love spending time with her. I love, that she's there for me. It's always, no, I just love them. And everything else is so horrible. Yeah, and I don't know, I was talking to somebody about like, who do you want to marry? And the person said, I want to marry my best friend. And I was like, yeah, I would want to be with someone who I look forward to seeing them every day and talking to them and hearing how their day is, learning more about them and like experiencing things with them. Like, I want to marry that person who like I can do stupid fucking shit with and feel awesome and in love with them even more that we can do that shit. Oh God, yeah. Right? I really wish that I can get to that place with like, with like a great love like in my life. Do you think that there's a broader human purpose? Like, I think I talked about last episode about like my dog and how like I love him, and I got to a point when I found out that he had cancer and was going to die that I was just like, none of this fucking shit matters. A part of me thinks that part of your purpose as a human is to experience love and give as much love as possible, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you receive that love back. Do you believe that there's like a grand purpose for like humans? That's a big question. The ultimate trick is that nobody consented to be brought into existence. But now that we're here, we're trying to find the greatest meaning before we die. So I don't believe it's utopia. Yeah. And I don't believe that it's possible. And if it is, it will only be very temporary, and then it will just cycle out. Because I think it's very human to have conflict, but we need conflict, but we can probably trim off a lot of bullshit like along the way, like tolls.
Tolls.
Like
Tolls is bullshit we don't need.
Yeah, like when you're driving around Illinois, like we don't really need a toll like on the fucking highways. You know, it just no. Like probably somebody could explain the policy to me better, but to me that's bullshit. But the purpose for humans is to perhaps become the ultimate individual throughout our lives.
My gut response was to say the Ubermensch, but that's not what you mean, right?
No. Well,
my brain went to Nietzsche's Ubermensch, and I'm like, meh. that was Nietzsche, right? Ubermensch.
I'm not sure. I'm not too. I'm actually Nietzsche. That was another one. I would say Nietzsche.
Okay, so that's okay. Funny. Like when I was taught by a guy when I was in high school, he was from like the south side of Chicago, and he would say Nietzsche, and then I would say Nietzsche. Like I learned from other people, like no, it's Nietzsche, but I don't think anyone actually knows how the fuck to say that. Yeah,
I've heard Nietzsche more than Nietzsche, but I started when I first heard about him, it was Nietzsche.
Yeah, exactly, Nietzsche. To become the ultimate individual isn't. When I hear the word individual, though, I almost think of like uncoupling. I think of like no one. I think of a lone person, no relationships with other people. But maybe there's a difference between an individual and a lone wolf.
There is. I think the ultimate individual is one that also like knows how to be amongst the people without relying on them for their own existence.
Okay, so to be an independent person, like to be secure within yourself, not codependent, and go from there.
Yeah, so for instance, you're able to unlock the absolute best parts of yourself, not allocate yourself to evil, and share that with others. Because the people that you want to be around, I don't care who the fuck, like no one wants to be around people on purpose who are up to no good and who aren't striving to like challenge some of that goodness. People who, you know, are trying to do better, and they might not be in the place now where they can get there, but ultimately, like, we always attribute to, you know, like in movies, man, we fucking love watching people overcome shit. That's what a protagonist in every movie is.
That's very true. It's very true.
Like, there's never any, like, even the fucking movie about Hitler, Downfall, he's the goddamn protagonist in the movie, and we can sympathize with Hitler. So there's some sort of redeeming quality to life, and I think that like once we are able to like find, you know, and to really fight our greatest fears and like to come out with that on top and to like just share that amongst the people, that's like the ultimate individual. Like, you know, I'm afraid that nowadays like people get individual confused with other words such as selfishness.
Yes,
and,
I would agree.
You know, there's nothing wrong with being an individual, and the thing is when you are the ultimate individual, that means that nobody is giving you anything to make you you.
Yeah,
that's why I don't want love to be the only reason why I am stuck with somebody. It's because I want to be with like, you know, an individual, like just the ultimate individual, you know, that I could just be with, and not necessarily like, oh, this is like the fucking Beyonce or some shit. Yeah. But this person is definitely, you know, there. And the same thing with kids is that if you're like the ultimate individual, you are literally raising the future.
Yes, very true. You're raising the future when you're raising the future, and oftentimes people think that it's like part of their purpose as a parent to make a good person, to go out and give them the skills to be the ultimate individual or whatever, to go out and find their purpose or have the strength or the wisdom to act a certain way. And go out and change the world. Do you think that parents believe their purpose is just that? Do you think there is one purpose that a parent views? Or do you think it's kind of like, I suppose there's some people who have children selfishly, just because they want to see, I don't know, what their baby looks like? I don't know. There has to be people who have children for selfish reasons. Maybe something like, I want someone to take care of me when I'm old. Like, I think that's a really shitty reason to have a child.
Yeah.
But I've heard that one a lot. Like, Like, when I've told people, like, I don't really know if I want kids. And they're like, well, who's going to take care of you when you're old? And I'm like, I don't know, my damn self. Like, I don't know. Like, the worst thing in the world would be having a child just so it could take care of me. And I never want, like, if I do have children, I don't want to be a burden on them when I'm older and, like, have them, like, I don't know, have me move in with them or something.
Yeah, it would be weird to have somebody 30 years younger than me wipe my ass because I can't do it myself.
Ew.
Like, I don't want a 1-year-old to wipe my ass now. Like, that's just, you know, I understand. I think that's a lot of people's fears, because you get old, you get frail, you get very vulnerable, and you wither away. And I work with a woman who, she's in her 60s now, and she says, when I'm turned 70, I think I'm going to kill myself because I don't want to be a burden on anybody. And,
oh my God.
You know, so I think that's just like the underlying fear of getting old.
Yeah, and I get that. I knew when I was growing up, I had a friend whose dad told her, the first time I shit myself, you get to kill me. Put a shotgun in my head, just put me out of my misery. And I, like, told that to my dad, and now it's kind of like a joke, like, you know, Dad, first time you shit yourself, taking you out back like old Yeller. But obviously it's horrible. I would never do that. But
you just have bad food, and he's like, wait, no, this is food. No.
No, it was just the takeout. No!
Daughter, no!
Daughter, no!
And he's just, you know, like, he's just spaghetti on the wall.
Ew!
So...
Dad, that's all that's left of Papa.
Yeah. So we all have purpose and potential, and we can't all be famous, you know?
Well, here's the thing. I feel like that's a new phenomenon. I think wanting to be famous is something that's only been born out of the past, I would say 100 years. Because, like before we had communication to talk about, like, entertainment and have, like, widespread entertainers, like even, like, radio shows and whatnot, like, you're telling me in, like, 1890 there was a person that was like, I'm gonna be famous, I'm gonna be a star, but like, how? What were you gonna do? Like, join the circus? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, did you know what it meant? Like, now the way we view fame is like, I'm gonna have millions of followers on whatever platform I'm on, and I'm gonna make lots of money. Like, really? Your ultimate... and it's kind of weird that I'm harassing this concept, because I myself just said, like, I want to affect people in a positive manner and, like, allow my art to touch them, and I'm sure there's a lot of famous people that do that, but, like, I don't necessarily, like, the thing about fame is I don't want people, like, viewing me as an object and, like, I'm not a person anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that will happen.
When you're famous, like, you're just an object. You're
Yeah.
just an object. You're not a person anymore. I don't know, but it's paradoxical because you are a person, but you're not. Like people are very willing to forgive celebrities for certain things, or the law is allowed to forgive them, but yet they're an object, and anytime anyone sees them in public, they, like, fucking run up to them and take a selfie with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't understand the draw to be famous.
It reminds me of the MTV show called Made.
Oh my God, I remember that show. I love that show.
I watched so many goddamn episodes, but a lot of them had, like, a very common episode. Like, there was the geek, the outcast who wanted to be prom king.
Yeah, and I think a part of me is like, does that person want power, or do they just want to be liked? And I think it's the latter. They just want to be liked. And that's ridiculous. Like, why don't you take some enjoyment in not being part of the crowd? I don't know.
Yeah, there's this one episode where the guy, like, he was just, like, no one knew him, but then at the end of the episode, he became prom king, and, you know, this episode was 10 years ago, so he's probably, like, closer to our age now, and he's like, well, at least I got on TV. I think it's people, because whenever you attribute your own values to something, you're creating a hierarchy of it. So, for instance, if all you want to do is be the best teacher, you're now in this hierarchy. So, for instance, you started out teaching,
yeah, but
if you want to, like, keep growing on the ladder, you created this hierarchy for yourself. So, same thing with art. So, right now we're on the bottom of the totem pole because our art is not monetized, nor do we have a outlet, like a consistent outlet to pour that stuff into. So we're kind of like moving up the ladder. So with like that guy out there, the kid on Made, he created this hierarchy where he had to be the most popular kid in school, and therefore that gave him purpose. Yeah. So, you know,
it's kind of like it's making a game for yourself to feel purpose. That's ridiculous. And my gut reaction is to say that's ridiculous. Another part of me says that's how you survive, because life can be very difficult and challenging. If you give yourself a goal or a purpose, then it's much easier to make your way through life. I don't really, again, coming back to the fame thing, I don't get the want to be famous. I get wanting to affect people with your art. I don't want to be famous.
Yeah, same. Like, if I could have it every once in a while where I could still go out into public and people are like, hey, wait a minute, are you Brent, weird Serbian last name? Like, yeah, that's me. Like, hey, man, I listened to your shit. That really helped me out. I just want to say thank you. But I don't want to be like Lindsay Lohan, where she can't even take a shit without people like snapping their like flash bulbs at, you know, the turd, saying like, what did Lindsay eat? Ew, the turd.
Oh, but no, exactly. Like their cameras are literally down their throats and following them at all times, and it's so creepy and stalkery that like people buy those like trash magazines, like People or Us, that just like they're just photos of these people, and again, it's like they're just completely objectified. They're not a person anymore. They're just this like being that is famous, and I don't even know what's the draw. Sure, a lot of them are pretty and attractive people, and a lot of them give back, and there's other good qualities that they have, but they cease to be a person, and they're just an object.
Yeah, it's like once you become a commodity, it's hard to like gain its like sentimental value. Like you have to change it to sentimental value, because like if you're a little kid and your parents buy you a blanket, let's just say it had fucking trains on it, you know, they bought that shit at JCPenney's or Kmart or wherever, you know, but you created memories with that fucking object. Yeah. So I think that's why we love certain art. That's why I love The Rock. So The Rock is my number one like I just love that man. But I understand he's a dude, and I've really grown to respect him more and more over the years, just because he's been honest with himself. But what transcends the object part for me is that I have so many memories of just The Rock in my life. Like when I was a kid, I grew up watching wrestling. Yeah. Like when I was a teen. So like him and his art, if you want to call it that, really transcended like beyond the person, because his art gave purpose to other people. Yeah. It's very much the same with me and George Carlin. You know, a lot of my like comic mentors, like, you know, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Steve Harvey, Patrice O'Neal, and even Louis C.K. Mm-hmm. And I know with Louis now that that was a really hard one to take. You know?
Well, I think it's because, again, if we almost look at them like objects again, like we put Louis on a pedestal as a comic and forgot about the person and how people are capable of doing evil or sinister things. And I think that's what happens. And that you put them on a pedestal, you think they're these beautiful, amazing people and things, and you view their work, and it's really easy to conflate the work with the person. Because like Louis C.K.'s comedy, his albums, his specials, hysterical shit, him as a person, he's done some evil fucking things. Yeah. So I think that's what happens there.
So do you think it's possible to separate art from the artist?
Oh my god. So this is a good question, because I struggle with it. I like, there's like musicians that I've heard or I've seen them in interviews, and they're just fucking assholes, and it literally tarnishes their work for me. Or like unpopular opinion here, I fucking hate Andy Warhol. Fucking hate him. Like, hate his work. I don't think it's cool or interesting. Like, I'm not saying this to be edgy. Like, he was ugh. I don't like him. And then I don't like his art. Like,
I mean, we're better off defending Louis C.K. than saying you hate Andy Warhol.
You're right. People are gonna come for my fucking throat. that bitch doesn't like Andy Warhol.
Oh man.
I don't though. And I don't feel bad saying it. But no, it's very hard for me to separate art and artist. If you're a shitty person, or if you're a shitbag, or comes out that you did evil shit, like fucking sexually assault somebody, like your artwork is tainted for me. Like, for example, Jesse Lacey, the lead singer of the band Brand New, I really liked Brand New, saw him in concert, loved all their records, and then it came out that he had not sexually assaulted, but he like manipulated these like young girls. It's just disgusting and sinister, and I don't think I've picked up a Brand New record since. And like, I will think back to songs I like, and the thing is, like, Brand New is more than just Jesse Lacey, so I shouldn't feel bad about like listening to their records and like really holding true to like some of the songs and what they meant to me. But no, there's a part of them, they're just fucking tarnished forever because some fucking terrible person was at the helm of that band.
Yeah. This is something I've been really struggling with over the past, few months, especially after Louis, because for 13 years, he was such a big part of and a big influence in my life. Like, I discovered him when I was right out of high school, like in 2005. So, but the way I see, like, this is going to sound really cheesy, but do you think people are art? Not objectively, but like in terms of like, okay, like, so like if you got this kind of body, then you're a piece of art. But do you think that like people can be art?
I'm struggling here with this one. So like, you're not talking about like if a man's body has, to quote Rocky Horror Picture Show, the Charles Atlas seal of approval.
Rocky.
Rocky. He has the Charles Atlas seal of approval. You're saying that like the body is a piece. You're not saying that the body is a piece of art, are you?
No. Okay. So
you're saying like the human being is a work of art.
Yeah. So okay, I think maybe I'll try to break it down. So, separating art from the artist, the way I see it is that everybody who is born has the potential in such a finite amount of time to reach greatness, not necessarily fame and fortune and all that shit, but just to be like the ultimate individual. Mm-hmm. So what I wonder is, and especially like some tragedies that I won't talk about on this podcast that have happened in my life, that, because if you are a parent, you're making a person.
Yes.
So I have known so many people in my life who have had awful parents, but have been very decent people. Yeah. Like one of my friends, just like pure fucking evil. So what does that mean for the kid? Mm-hmm. So when I think separating art from the artist, yeah, I mean, if I were to buy Louis C.K.'s DVD, or like that Brandon Lacey or Brandy Lacey,
Jesse Lacey, and the band is Brand New.
Brand New, okay. So Jesse Lacey, like if I bought like his record, like that like helps him out.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you are a product of your parents, but you're something more.
I see what you're saying here. So like the artist has their quote unquote child, like their record, their painting, whatever it is, and then the parent has the child, which is kind of like their art piece that they've made. Yeah. And so can that person be a work of art? Yeah, I think you can, and I think that there's something beautiful in that. I think there's something beautiful, not just beauty for its own sake or arts for art's sake, but something deeper than that within human beings. I think you can be a work of art as a person. Because when you think of a work of art, what determines if something's art? And we can get super philosophical with this. But I think ultimately it has something that you can like connect with as a person, and it's presented to you in a new and interesting way or format. And every person has something new or interesting or unique to them, and that you can connect to them in a certain way. So yeah, I think that every person is a unique piece of art in their own way then.
Yeah. So you can separate art from the artist because you're an amalgam of everything that makes you, you.
This is true. But I'm going to be stubborn here and say that brand news records are still tarnished for me because of fucking Jesse Lacey.
Right? No, that's totally fine. But that's why I think that, like, people, the way I'm saying that is because, you know, everybody has that purpose. And one of the things that I've realized throughout my life, and I'm trying to be humble about this while also speaking the truth, but I think one of my purposes in life is to unlock that potential in people, because I have met quite a few people in my life who they've told me that I'm the only one they can truly be themselves around. Wow. Or perhaps I told them something and then they thought of their whole life completely differently just based off of some sounds I made with my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, so, or I just bring out the best with somebody when I'm spending time with them. So
I'd say you found your purpose then. Or,
yeah.
Or you know what it is. You just, maybe you know the end. You don't have the means yet. Or you're trying to find the means. Like earlier we were talking about, like, you know, you can't find the wanted ad that says use comedy to help enrich people's lives and find purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
That hasn't been written in any job just yet. Maybe someday though.
Yeah, we can only hope. But at least now, like, knowing that I can at least be on the road towards living a fulfilling life, because I am fulfilled, like, when people tell me that shit, you know, and I really do believe it. And I think it's sad in a way that I'm the only one, you know, like, and they don't have that other person in their lives to do that.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it's a big burden, you know, like, just like, it's crazy like how much power just listening to somebody, like how much power that holds.
Oh yeah, if you just listen, especially like being a teacher, if you're the one adult figure in a child's life that listens, powerful to them. Because I feel like, especially, I mean, I think all people experience this, but definitely kids, you're told what to do, when to do it, told that you're wrong, that you shouldn't believe that. Everyone experiences that. Yeah,
dude. So at least that's like with, you know, with my purpose, I kind of understand that. Like, so I guess where are you at now? Like with kind of, so like, you know, are you at least on a path, like to where you are slowly figuring that out or coming to terms, or like what's that feeling deep inside of you?
Yeah, well, I definitely thought when I was in grad school and when I was doing teaching that I thought my purpose was being a teacher and impacting young lives like that. And after the experience of teaching and putting principle into practice, I do actively question if that is only my life purpose. I think that I have maybe the purpose or of positively impacting people, making them think a certain way or something like along those lines. It's just the way that I get there, the way they achieve those means. I think it is something more creative than teaching will allow. Even though teaching does allow me to be creative, and like especially the people that I work with and the school of thought that we follow, there's a lot of space for creativity, but at the same time, like, I know that I could be making more true to form art through music or podcasting or something like that. Like, I feel like there's, through that means, is more so where I'm leaning. And maybe it's just grass is greener on the other side. It could really be that. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm like lost. I have a sense, but I'm definitely exploring, trying to figure out. I'm also like really hesitant to like say that I like have everything figured out, like, as a person. Like, I just, because that, when the moment you say I've got this shit figured out, life smacks you in the fucking face and says no, you fucking don't. So I'm really also hesitant to be like, yeah, I really found my calling in being a teacher. Because the moment I thought that in grad school, I got to teaching and it was like, surprise, bitch. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's weird that I think we all start off in one place. Like, there's probably something at your core, like when you were a kid, that you just kind of knew but couldn't like articulate as well as you can as an adult.
Yeah, like I've always been a nurturing figure. Like I've always been like not like really like the mom of the group of friends, but I do feel like I do have that sense of myself, and I've always had that. But maybe that's just me trying to like boss people around and be right. I don't know.
It very well could be, but
ouch, Brent. Ouch.
Well, I mean, so like, is it just that then, or like, do you?
Or more? That's what you're asking. Well, I was always called to make art. Like the first job I wanted to be is I wanted to be an artist. When I was about 5, and I was obsessed with the Art Institute in Chicago. But I got away from that. And then when I was in high school, first I wanted to be an accountant because it was a stable job. And then I heard that the accountants have the highest suicide rate of any like industry or whatever, and decided that might not be for me. And then I wanted to be a florist, to be surrounded by beauty at all times. But I could never get a job in a florist shop as much as I tried. And then I think I put 2 and 2 together when I had like positive experiences with teachers and was like, I'm a smart person. I'm personable. I like people. I like enacting change in young people's lives and being the person that, you know, if I could have the opportunity to be the person that positively impacts teens the way I was positively impacted by a few adults and teachers, I wanted to be that thing. Kind of similar to how I've like listened to music and been like, I want to be this person because when I listen to his or her music, I feel a certain way, and I can live and be a certain being through their music, and I think I want to do that as well. So I feel, I don't want to say I'm lost. I don't want to say I'm hinting at anything, but I like, you know, I'm definitely exploring and trying to nail it down. But again, always hesitant to say I have the answers, or that I've done it, or that I know what's going on.
Right. So it just goes to show, if you give yourself a chance, that's pretty much the best thing that you could give for yourself.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, like, talking about differences in years and stuff, like now that I'm actively like, I'm making music with a friend, we're podcasting, I'm writing a lot, I'm reading more, you know, that feels awesome. It feels amazing. And here's the thing, like, to kind of bring it to like this idea of failure and dreams, like, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. I forget who said that, but it's basically like, if you doubt that you're meant for that, or you doubt your ability to achieve what you want to achieve, and you never try, you will certainly fail. That's another thing you could say. Failure is certain if you don't try. I'm just full of fucking Yoda wisdom today. But seriously, yeah. And I think of all the purposes, of all the niches to have, I think that a lot of it does come back to like love. Like when you were saying about like, you need, was it kids, love, what was the third thing?
Comedy.
Kids, love, comedy. Mine would be like art, whatever that means, love, and I'm gonna say dogs, because I fucking love dogs.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, I fucking love dogs. And dogs love you. Dogs are the representation of unconditional love. That's probably why I love dogs so much.
See, like, especially pugs, because they can't breathe right, and it just makes it more, they're more human.
See, because humans can't breathe right. See, you know, corgis are my thing. Love corgis.
They look like little sausages with ears, like pointy ears, dude.
Oh my God, they're so cute. There's a picture of a corgi behind you. Did you see that?
Oh,
I have a picture
God.
of a corgi in my room. Yeah.
That's pretty fucking gnarly, dude.
Isn't that fucking gnarly?
But I guess the best thing that we can do with ourselves is to take care of ourselves, which is the next topic of our podcast. Self-care.
Talking about self-care. Oh, I'm gonna have to...
Yeah, so, but I guess this just goes to show that, you know, purpose is something bigger than happiness, because, you know, we're more experts in the darkness, but something about purpose that's calling our names.
Yeah, definitely. And it's okay to feel like you don't have it figured out. It's okay to explore and take that chance on yourself and try to work it out.
Yeah, maybe you'll find your niche one day.
Your niche.
Your niche. Or wear your hobbies while you eat your gyro with gardenia on it. And hopefully you will find what you are looking for.
Agreed.
So this is This concludes this episode of Coffee Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. So remember, be good to each other and take care of yourselves.
Bye now.